Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Picket Fence Studios. This is Surprise It's Your Day, the stamps and dies. I showed you this one, which is Sweet Autumn Holiday, but I didn't end up using it. And then Sweet Holiday, Spooky Sweet. And then what are those other ones I didn't even end up using? And I apologize. I made this a little while ago. But basically what we're going to do today is we are going to create two cards with the same stamp sets for two different occasions with two different looks. You guys know that I appreciate versatility in my stamp sets above everything else. Well, I shouldn't say everything. They have to be good images, but versatility is right on the heels of that. Because I want to be able to use my investment for as long as possible and for as many things as possible. So originally when I started doing this, I was like, okay, I'm going to use them to create some fun backgrounds. So that's what I am doing here. So I stamped the grouping of hearts from Surprise It's Your Day down one time. And then I'm going to use some masking paper. This is Eclipse masking paper to be able to mask those hearts. And then from here, we are going to fill up our whole background using this heart bouquet. There is there's a single in that set as well that you could use. But we're just going to basically go through and stamp and fill all of these things. Now, like, are you going to be able to see the strings in front of some of the balloons? Yes, but I'm not overly worried about that. And I think by the time we get done with the stamping, I don't think you guys are really going to notice it either. Because if you had a group of balloons that were floating up, if you will, you would be able to see the strings in front of some of the other balloons. You know what I'm saying? So I like to stamp in the middle when I'm building out a pattern, and then I work out from there. And I only use this one mask. I just kind of moved it around as I needed to fill up the whole background. And then for some of these other like smaller areas, this is where that single balloon comes in, just to kind of fill in some of those gaps. Alternatively, you could just color those gaps different colors without having to do the stamping, and it would still read as if there was like another balloon back there. So in this same set is the box that you can use for the balloons to be floating up out of. And then this plain cupcake is from the Spooky Sweet set, because you can decorate it for, you know, Halloween, like spooky or sweet, like very cute. But I am going to use it to make a birthday card and a Valentine's Day card. That's what we're going to be making for both of these. For each of them. So I stamped out two cupcakes, stamped out my boxes and balloons. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to use for each card. For this background, I am going in and filling in the actual, no, what am I doing? I'm doing the shadows, I think, first. And I'm using a gray marker, like a mid-tone to dark gray marker. I think this is probably the cool gray. I'm using my Olos, and I'm so much more comfortable with my Copic markers, like knowing right away the numbers and the abbreviations that they're called. The Olos don't come as easy to me just because I don't have as much experience with them. They do work really great, and I had no issues blending them or anything like that. But here, basically, I'm just putting in a little drop shadow that is going to give me just a little bit more interest in my background. And then I'm going to go in with this mid-tone kind of teal color. You can use these right over your gray markers. You would want to use cool gray for like your purples, blues, greens, and then a warm gray for like your reds, pinks, oranges, yellows. But then once it's all filled in out to the lightest color, this is just going to give us some, so that background doesn't just look like blank and empty. It's just going to give us some filler back there. And then we're going to move on to coloring the balloons. I'm doing them a rainbow of colors because this is going to be the background for my birthday card. I do like to add the most shading kind of down where the balloon is gathered. And then I take that color up the sides, leaving a little bit of a gap so that we have some room for some reflective light. And then I will go over it with the mid-tone, and then finally the highlight color. Here's me remembering to show you what colors I am using. And I do this the same for all of them. If you are going for a transparency type of look, you would use the lightest color or the mid-tone to go directly through these. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to finish that heart so that way it looks like you can see the red one behind the pink. And then we're going to move on to the purple. Now, all of these are the same, like the technique is the same for all of them, but I did want to make sure that I tried my best to show you guys what color markers I am using because I know that I'm just not as familiar with them. There is a an exchange chart so that you can see what color matches closest that Sandy Allnack put together for Olo's 2 Copic markers, which is brilliant. And like so appreciate her taking the time to do that. Another little trick here, so you could see that purple was a little bit dark. If you feel like you've lost your top color, you can go back over it. Like I just went back over it with the pink. So it gives it more of a pink tone when you're looking at it on top of it. Obviously the purple is still dark and you would be able to still see that it is darker underneath there, but it has a purple cast or a pink cast on the top. And then, like I said, I'm just doing a rainbow of colors because I knew that it was going to be a birthday card. But if you have a birthday invitation or, you know, you have a specific somebody that you're going to give it to, you could possibly choose their favorite color or the color theme for their birthday party. I was going to say if it's a young kid, but honestly, I think nowadays theme parties are really a thing for people of all ages, aren't they? I think you see that a little bit more now, like all the decorations are kind of theme based, which is fun if you're into that. I only do theme parties for my kids, really. Not that I don't. What did I have for my 40th? My husband threw the party, but my sister did the decorating. My middle sister did all the decorating, and they were matchy. And come to think of it, when I did his kind of bigger birthday party, I did like black and gold and something else. So I guess I did do a theme for his. So I don't know. Do you guys do that? It wasn't really a theme, I guess. It was more of a color scheme. So is there a difference between that theme versus color scheme? I think so. Because like my kids, I do... Well, Caitlin's was Taylor Swift, as you guys know. And then, here I'm showing you that I don't love the red. I was not happy with it. So I'm going in and, I changed the combination. See how much lighter that one is at the top than the one on the bottom? So what I'm doing here is I'm going in with the colorless blender. And this is the only one I think that I have an actual handle on. And I'm just going to go in and remove as much color as possible from that without it like bleeding out of the lines. And then once I can remove that color, then I'm going to, here I'm just showing you how I am carrying on with that new red color, just so that it wasn't super, super dark. It just felt too dark for the overall feel of the card. And now we're going to move on to the coloring of the wrappers for the cupcakes. So the one that is for Valentine's Day, I am going to do the wrapper red. And here, you guys have probably seen me color cupcakes bunches of times, but in case you have missed it, I like to start with my darkest color. That wasn't always the case. Sometimes I would do, or for years I did the lightest color first, just because I wasn't comfortable. Please don't feel like you have to start with the darkest color. I know dark colors can be really intimidating. So if you're comfortable putting in your shadows with your lightest color first, just until you know where you're going to put them, then do that. There's absolutely no shame in it. And then once we have our shadows put in, I'm going to go in with my next darkest midtone, and I am going to outstretch that. So the valleys, like there's peaks and there's valleys, is what we're creating. So the valleys is what's going to have the darkest color, and it's going to have the 3 darkest colors, and I will fill in the valleys with those, which will leave me the peaks for my lightest color. I am also bringing up that lighter midtone about 3.5 to 3/4 of the way up the part where that's going to be my highlight. And this is just to show it's kind of more compact at the bottom. The cupcake is a little bit darker at the bottom, so you would have more shadows down there. For the cupcake itself, I do like to add a little bit more texture to my cupcakes, and I do that with something called stippling. So first things first, I go in and put in my shadows. So that's what you see me there. I'm just doing the line right underneath the frosting, and I'm doing little dots in between the dips, like where the cupcake wrapper is dipping in, and then I'll go over that with my midtone, and then finally with my lightest color. There's nothing wrong with this. You could totally leave it this way. I like adding the texture of the stippling just because I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic. And then what I do to do the stippling is I just go in with each color that I've just used and kind of put the same dots in the same areas that I did my original shading with. For the frosting, this one is going to have chocolate frosting. We've talked about this before when it comes to like birthdays and things. My cupcake of choice is chocolate. My oldest child's is vanilla. I do not understand, but that's okay. I love him anyway. So for this one, what I'm doing is, again, I'm starting with that darkest color, and I'm just kind of adding in those shadows. I do leave around like the curved edges a little bit of like reflective light, just like I do with the balloons. And then I'm also kind of extending out that darker shadow. When you get down to your lightest midtone, you should really just have like a sliver left of white that will be for your highlight color. You're not going to have much. The most that you, like the 2 colors that you will see the most of are your midtones. Darkest color is just the shadow, lightest color is just the highlight. Now, if you want a really kind of bright highlight, you absolutely can leave those white, or you could go back in and add them with your white gel pen. So I fill them in with my lightest color. I'm pretty happy with the way that they are looking. I felt like the cupcake didn't have quite enough darkness underneath the frosting, so I did go back and add that. For this cupcake, I am going to show you like just doing the stippling, because this one is a vanilla cupcake. It's not going to have quite the same amount of darkness, and so I didn't want to muddy it up by doing the shading 2 times. I wanted it to feel very light, because a vanilla cupcake still has a browned top. You know what I'm saying? Even if you do them white with only egg whites, they still have that browned top, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting it too dark. So I just did the stippling. That did not provide enough contrast, so I did go back in and do the stippling a second time, being a little bit more generous with my darker color. For this frosting, I am going to use the warm grays instead of the cool grays. And basically, you're going to see that for my darkest color, I'm pretty much putting the shadows in exactly the same place that I did with my chocolate. The difference is I'm not using 4 colors, I'm using 3. And that's because the white of the paper is my fourth color. When you're coloring something white, you're only putting in the shadows. And so that is what I am concentrating on. I want there to be enough shadow to give it some shape. But I don't want a gray frosted cupcake. I don't think that would look good in coloring or in real life, honestly. And then, I'm going to go in with that mid-tone and blend it out, but we're still going to have those white areas. Right now, it still does read a little bit gray, but once we get it with those bright colors of that background that we did, it's not going to look quite that gray. And then here I'm just going to do pinks, and I'm going to do them the same way, so you'll get to see that coloring of the cupcake cracker for the second time. What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about color themes. So I think I do pick a color scheme for each party, but not necessarily a theme. For the kids typically have the theme versus like making sure everything is matchy. Because even for like when we do cakes and stuff for like my parents or my siblings, like if we're just doing like cakes at dinner, like where people, we've all gotten together for dinner. I don't typically decorate them like anything fancy or get extra special plates. Like we just have, cake and whatever candles I can find in my junk drawer. Which is that a Midwestern thing? Do you have a junk drawer? I definitely have a junk drawer, and I had one when I was growing up too. My parents still, their junk drawer is a little more cleaned out now because, their kids are grown, and we've grown up and moved out and created our own junk drawers in our own houses. So theirs is a little bit tidier, but they still do. And like, in the junk drawer is like writing utensils, like if you need a pen or what else is there? The scissors, absolutely scissors in the junk drawer, batteries, the twisty ties and for like bread and things, business cards go in the junk drawer. Tape is in the junk drawer. Like, do you have one? I thought somewhere like I had seen some sort of reel that was like teasing about the Midwest, and it's set in there like your Midwestern junk drawer, which I do. I can't even say that I don't, because I definitely have one. And honestly, like it drives my husband crazy. He'll be like, we need to clean this thing out. But like for what? For what? For 2 weeks, somebody else to just let that stuff stack back up again? Why would we take the time to clean this out? It will only recreate itself within the month. So anyway, here I'm doing the box. And the box is meant to look, obviously, like it is open. So the premise behind it when I drew it was that the heart balloons would be flying up out of the box. So that is how I drew it. So I'm adding a little bit of the shadows underneath kind of like the top flaps of the box. I don't really like that word. I don't like it. Anyway, but the wings, the top wings, like how the sides of the box are, those would cast a little bit of a shadow. This portion here is the ribbon, which I am doing red. And then you can have fun with patterns. That is what I'm going to do. So you could do it like how I'm doing it here and just do polka dots. And I think that would be a really fun, like, look for anything, really. I mean, polka dots is such a neutral kind of pattern, but I'm actually going to add some leaves, and these are going to look like little roses. That's the intention anyway, like little red flowers. You could also do this. You could switch it up for Christmas and do kind of more green and do like 2 or 3 red dots together, and they would look like berries. I think that would be great. I'm not going to use the other box that I colored. You'll see that down there. And I used the same pink, red, and white combinations for the other balloons. So this one that you see, these little candy conversation hearts, this is super cute, and it is actually a background stamp, but I didn't end up using it. Here, this is part of Picket Fence has some sets that are kind of like basic die sets. This is the postage background, and it's got like a couple of other different layers, and then the same thing with like the stripes. The stripe is a smaller layer. And so I had originally intended on using those conversation hearts, but to be quite candid with you, it was far too busy. So I did the stripes. I kept the frame that it cut out. And then here I'm switching up that lime green leaf to more of a teal, since I'm using that teal stripe. And then I am going to also do my stamping. So one will obviously say happy birthday, and the other one is going to be from that same set, but it says happy Valentine's Day. So for this one, I'm just stamping in black on white. This sentiment is from the Sweet Holiday stamp set. That one has happy birthday, Merry Christmas, and like sweet wishes in there, and they're all in the same font. Because that was the original cupcake set. This one is from the Surprise It's Your Day, and I am going to white heat emboss it on this teal colored cardstock, and then cut it out with its coordinating die cut. I am here, like I said in the beginning, I'm here for anything that is versatile, so I try to include different sentiments in each of the sets that will allow you to get some continued use out of it. This color of cardstock is, I think it's Adriatic from Hero Arts. Could also be Tranquil Teal from Gina K. Not positive. We'll come back to it. So here I have cut this Post-it background out of white, and I'm just going to do a couple of different layers into the background, just to add a little bit of interest. We don't want to take away from our focal point, but we're just going to layer it up to have just a smidge of interest going on. That red piece that you see over there, that is the that is the like epitome of my cheap chickenness. I know you know. I know you know. If you've been here before, I know that you know. So once I have that done, I'm going to trim it down just a little bit, just like 1/8 of an inch, so that I can mount it on that red, and nobody is going to know that we die cut pieces out of it, because it's going to be mounted to our card base. They won't know, I promise you. So just go ahead and use up that scrap of red, because all we need is just the border. You know what I'm saying? Nobody needs to know about the rest of it. And then we're going to put the stripe in the middle. I did speed this up just a little bit because, it's a lot of stripey stripes to get glue on. So I'm going to put this down, and then that way we'll be able to build our cupcake and our balloons right on top of this. And I feel like this particular design for a card is really, you can mix this up for anything. You know what I'm saying? I love a stripe. A stripe is neutral, just like those polka dots are a little bit more neutral. So here I did include another of the single balloons in there, just to have a little bit more of a balance comparative to the cupcake down in the bottom left. I wanted the balloons to balance in the top right. And these ones I am going to use, like I said, that box that it's going to be popping out of. This, I think, is probably the closest to my designs when I originally started card making. Like now, most of the time, I try very much I do a lot of scene cards. It's rough for me to leave anything that's kind of like floating or untethered or any of those, things. And actually, there's a card that I sat down to work on today and I didn't get finished. But that is another one that is kind of similar where, maybe there's some, I don't want to say string. That's not like twine. There's, some other things, like that I haven't used in a really long time. So that sentiment matches the cardstock that we used the stripes for, and these were, you know, kind of like popped up. That sentiment blends in very nicely. Now, you guys know I don't love a white outline, and that has not changed. Even though this is not a scene card, I am still going to go in with the same markers that I colored it with and just kind of blend them in so they look more like they're one piece instead of three different pieces that I have Frankensteined together. You know what I'm saying? Look, I even went in and colored like the teal stripes versus the white stripes because I'm crazy. The white stripes, very good. Love Jack White. I am squirreling a little bit today. Bear with me. So here, we have like the arch die that we've cut out in the background, and then we have that the background that we've colored. I thought it might be a little bit too busy, and if you have that problem where you think maybe it's a little bit too much, you could always try a piece of vellum over it. So those hearts are still very clearly, you know, the same colors and stuff, but it's not competing with the focal point. I actually did like mine better with the full background being shown. So I glued it the same way I did everything else. I'm adding some shimmer to the balloons as well as to the cupcakes. And then, of course, my white, the white accents for the balloons. I think it just totally sets it off. Same thing for the cupcakes. And then adding some glitters, like some glittery sparkles to the cupcake, glitters to the balloons, because I'm all about anything that is shiny. So I think that is about it. That finishes off both cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.